What's with that attitude? You're a wife. No. A glaring mother-in-law. I've decided to live with Mom. If you don't like it, let's get a divorce. My husband calmly announced something shocking. What are they talking about? Am I supposed to go back home and do all the housework, even though I'm at my parents' house to give birth? And what does living together even mean? If you let Mom help with childcare, you should be able to focus on the housework. Where has the kind husband I knew gone? I was overwhelmed with sadness, anger, and now despair. Isn't that weird? That was my brother, reacting to the story. Listen, will you try doing what I say tomorrow? My brother begins to explain a plan to uncover the truth. My name is Gina, and I'm 32 years old. I'm pregnant with my first child, who is due very soon. I'm planning to go back to my parents' house tomorrow because the due date is near. No. Don't lift heavy things when you're so pregnant, I'll do it. My husband, Neil, worried and packed in my stead. He was very kind and reliable. Don't live sloppily even when I'm not around. Our new house, which was just completed last year, was kept clean because of my habits of tidying up. Of course, I'll keep it clean and wait for you to come out. My husband said this while rubbing my belly. It was a very happy moment. However, one phone call shattered that happiness. My mood suddenly dropped as I saw the name displayed on the screen. Hello, Gina. The sharp voice of my mother-in-law pierced my ears. Aren't you going back to your hometown for childbirth? I told you to stop because it's disgraceful. I was utterly exhausted from her daily calls. While she appeared kind on the surface, her remarks and criticisms towards me never ceased. Are you just lazing around at home? Well, that must be nice. You are hungry? You're eating too much. Planning to gain more weight. You're already fat enough. And she boasted about her own parenting experience, continuing to lecture me day and night. My son turned out fine because I raised him right, so you won't go wrong following my advice. I was all about breastfeeding and using cloth diapers. I don't remember struggling at all, Gina. You're just being spoiled. The worst part was her comparing me to my husband's ex-girlfriend. His previous girlfriend was bright, honest, and a good girl. Why are you so defiant? I was at a loss for words. This situation was so stressful that I asked my husband several times to make it stop, but the calls never ceased. My kind husband probably found it hard to speak up. However, if this continues even after the child is born, I don't think I can tolerate it. Gina, are you listening? Yes, I'm listening. Don't go back to your hometown. What are you thinking, leaving my poor baby Neil alone? What about you? How can you still think of a grown-up man as a baby? We live in the same city, so I can come back quickly. It's not about the distance. But I've already informed my parents. Your parents? Whose child are you planning to have? Once again, an anachronistic remark from my mother-in-law bursted out. Is it not my child? Saying something like that would surely enrage her. At that moment, my husband took the call instead. Mom, didn't I tell you before? I have an important business trip starting tomorrow until the due date, so it's safer for Gina to go back to her hometown. Hey, did we talk about that? We decided together. Neil, why would you say that? Then, can you take care of her instead, Mom? I can't do that. My mother-in-law answered immediately. I would also like to refuse. She can't manage housework at all, and her house was always a mess. Moreover, she had 2 dogs and 2 cats, which are very cute, but kept in a way that was not hygienic. I suspect I'm allergic to cats, so even the midwife advised me not to go there. I have to take care of the dogs and cats, so I can't look after Gina. Then it can't be helped, right? Why does it turn out like this? I gave birth alone and went back to work right away. Gina is just being spoiled. Mom, is it okay if something happens to your grandchild? I didn't say anything like that. My husband took his time calming down my mother-in-law, who was not conducive to discussion. It's probably not that she had any ill intentions. I understand she was enthusiastic as someone with parenting experience, and she was probably just excited about her first grandchild. However, with me being pregnant, I couldn't accommodate her. I was truly grateful that my husband stood up for me. Don't worry, it's all right. Encouraged by my husband, I went ahead with the plan and returned to my parents' home as scheduled. If there were no issues, I would stay at my parents' house until the baby's 1-month checkup. In addition to my parents, my brother's family lives on the same property, and they have 3 children, the youngest of whom was just born recently. My sister-in-law was experienced, so she should be able to support me smoothly through childbirth. Though I felt lonely with my husband away, it was comforting to have my mother, who is good at cooking and caring, and my sister-in-law, who is experienced in childcare. I spent some peaceful time at my parents' house for a while. The day before the due date, labor began, and I gave birth safely. My husband was still on a business trip. It was unfortunate that he couldn't make it, but I sent him an email with photos to announce the arrival of our new family member. It's unavoidable that one can't choose the timing of childbirth. I'm still not in perfect health postpartum, but I'm working hard to care for the newborn. Despite my studies, it was a struggle since this was my first child. The baby cried day and night, and just holding them made my shoulders stiff. I was busy every day breastfeeding and changing diapers. The pain from childbirth still lingered, and my sleep was light. I was exhausted as my physical recovery wasn't going as planned. Yet, nothing compared to the sweetness of my child. I could look at my child forever. Even its crying face moved me, overflowing with vitality. I was really grateful that the hospital had banned visits as a precaution against infections. If my mother-in-law had been there, I might have been drained, not just physically but mentally as well. The day of discharge came all too quickly. My husband was supposed to come pick me up, but a sudden work issue came up, and my brother came instead. I understand that work is important, but I really wanted to show our child to my husband soon. He was so looking forward to it, he's sure to be overjoyed. However, 3 days passed, then a week, and still my husband hadn't come to visit. Isn't that weird? Our child has been born, you know? I thought he would come rushing over right away. Both my parents and my brother's family were concerned as well. I knew he was busy with work even before the birth, but I thought he could at least make some time to visit. Now I was starting to get a bad feeling. I messaged him to call me when he had some free time, but he ignored the message, and my anxiety was growing. I tried calling him when I thought he'd be done with work, but he didn't answer. Why was that? Finally, he called back, but it was almost midnight. "Oh, you were awake." "Huh. I thought you were sleeping." Does anyone normally call thinking the other person might be asleep? More importantly, I was relieved to finally be able to talk. I was just feeding the baby. But are you really that busy? Yeah, a bit. He sounded just like always, as if he couldn't sense my worry or urgency. Come quickly and see the baby. We also need to register the child's birth. What's wrong? That's something anyone can do, right? Huh. Despite it being late at night, I couldn't help raising my voice. Sorry, I'm just really busy right now. I understand, but still. Just then, our child, who had just been fed a little while ago, started crying again. Next, is it time for a diaper change? The name we decided on before is fine, no changes. What? I saw the baby's face in the email. Please submit the documents. Wait, but I have to get up early tomorrow, so I'm hanging up. The call ended unilaterally just like that. For a moment, I was so shocked that my thoughts froze. Gradually, sadness began to well up inside me. No matter how busy, being treated so impersonally felt awful. Postpartum, my emotions were unstable, and being spoken to in such a manner just made me sigh deeply. But perhaps this was the reality. My beloved child was right in front of me, but for my husband, his daily life hadn't changed. Maybe switching to becoming a parent overnight was hard for him. I thought seeing our child's face might change his feelings. I considered returning home earlier than planned for my husband's sake, but my mother and sister-in-law persuaded me not to push myself. Still, I had a bad feeling. My husband's indifferent attitude bothered me. Even the incessant calls from my mother-in-law before the birth had stopped. I sent several emails, but no replies came. It's not that I was waiting for her to contact me, but I was anxious about what was happening. While I pondered this, the days filled with caring for the newborn continued. Before I knew it, 2 weeks had passed. Eventually, my brother registered my child's birth. My parents helped out during the day, so I could sleep relatively well. My strength was gradually returning. Suddenly, I received a call from my husband. Hello, Neil. I have something to tell you. Unlike me, cheerful at the thought of finally meeting, Neil's voice was serious. Is something wrong? Can you come back home right now? Right now. What's so urgent all of a sudden? Our child had just fallen asleep, and I was still in my pajamas. What's the matter? Is there a problem? Just come back right now. I could sense something unusual in Neil's voice. What could have happened when he said right now? It must have been something extremely serious. I left our child with my mother, who couldn't hide her distress, and got into the car, still in my pajamas. What could have happened? Drive safely, don't rush. I told myself, trying to stay calm, but the red lights seemed longer than usual, and I grew increasingly anxious. About 10 minutes later, I arrived at home. With a sense of caution, I clutched my mobile phone tightly as I entered the house. In the living room, Neil and my mother-in-law were there, relaxing and drinking tea. What? This was nothing like the dire scenario I had imagined, and I stood there dumbfounded. As I tried to grasp what was happening, I noticed something odd about the house. What's going on here? The small plant from the shelf, the stuffed animals from the cushions, the clock that was on the wall. They were all gone. I got rid of them because they weren't to my taste. There was no sign of regret on my mother-in-law's face. These were things I was deeply attached to. And I'm using the room at the back on the second floor. I couldn't understand what she meant. Looking at Neil for help, his face was colder than I had ever seen it. Neil, why did you urgently call me back? What's going on? Answer me. Neil remained silent, and it was my mother-in-law who spoke. I can't tolerate this anymore. What? How long do you plan to stay away from home? You are a wife, so you should do your duties around the house. Come back quickly and prepare our dinner. I couldn't comprehend her words. I was too stunned to react. I was supposed to stay at my parents' house until the baby's 1-month checkup. What's with that attitude? You're a wife, no. A glaring mother-in-law. Desperately, I managed to ask Neil, "What is this all about?" Neil answered calmly, "I've decided to live with my mother." What? If you don't like it, let's get a divorce. Wait a minute, what's happening? Did I do something wrong? I don't understand. Why? Tears ran down my face as I pleaded. Seeing this, Neil and his mother looked at each other and laughed. Are we going to live together or not? Which is it? At that moment, 2 dogs and 2 cats ran down the stairs from the second floor. I sneezed unexpectedly. Yes, these pets are coming with me too. They're my precious family. Haven't I told you that I might be allergic to cats? What are you talking about? You haven't been diagnosed, have you? It might just be in your head. I hurriedly covered my face with a handkerchief, but my eyes and nose began to itch. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that the wallpaper and pillars were scratched in places. Apparently, these were marks from clawing. Our new house was being ruined. I couldn't possibly live with untrained pets and a baby. I was baffled why Neil, who knew about my allergy, would suggest such a living arrangement. Why are we starting to live together now? I can't accept this at all. If you let Mom help with the childcare, you can focus on the household chores. Don't make decisions selfishly. And why did you throw away my things without asking? Well, they were in poor taste. What? I didn't want to hear that from a mother-in-law who goes shopping in an old jersey her son used to wear. Neil said, "Just make dinner quickly." But I began to doubt if this was really my husband. I was overwhelmed by despair, beyond sadness and anger. He didn't even care about how our child was doing now. My confused mind recalled the face of my child, and I finally regained my composure. I don't need such a husband, such a father anymore. Talking was useless. I decided to divorce. The tears weren't from sadness, but from my cat allergy. I hurried back to my parents' house. The moment I saw my sleeping child's face, I couldn't stop the tears anymore. Seeing me in tears, my brother became concerned and asked what had happened. I explained how I was forced into living together and how the house had been completely changed. Even though the cats were no longer there, I couldn't stop crying. "Isn't that strange?" my brother said, tilting his head. "Suddenly all this happened. I wonder if something else is going on? Maybe," he murmured to himself. "Are we just going to leave it like this? I hate it, but I don't know what to do." "You hate it, right?" "Of course. I'm angry, confused, and frustrated. Listen, will you try doing what I say tomorrow?" The next day, I put on an apron and a mask and headed back to the house where my husband was. The floors of the house hadn't been cleaned and were covered with pet hair. Laundry and trash were scattered everywhere, making the sanitary conditions poor. Without complaining, I began to clean each room diligently. My mother-in-law watched contentedly. It seems like you finally understood your duties as a wife. Bring the grandchild over quickly. Yes, I'll bring them as soon as I finish cleaning. When will you be done? By tomorrow. That's too late. Hurry up. Sorry. I'll make sure everything is spotlessly clean so that you and the pets can be comfortable. That's only natural. Let her say what she likes. I smirked to myself. Then, I'll come back tomorrow. Please do. Unaware of anything, my mother-in-law acted arrogantly. This was her last moment of reprieve. The plan was progressing smoothly. Back at my parents' house, I hugged my child, whom my mother had been looking after. My mother-in-law had been urging me to bring the grandchild quickly. I was at my limit. I would never let her hold my child. My brother, who had been waiting, played a video that had been recorded. The screen showed my mother-in-law and my husband. It was footage taken today with a small camera I had set up in the house while I was cleaning. Once the cleaning is done and the house is tidy, we'll get her to leave. A little pressure and she'll fold. Hurry up, she is waiting for me. See, that's why I always said you were better off with your ex-girlfriend? I really should have listened to you, Mom. That daughter-in-law is stubborn, unfriendly, and allergic to cats. I only appreciate her for giving me a grandchild. My girlfriend and I don't want kids anyway. That's fine. I'll raise the grandchild and have them take care of me in the future. What outrageous things were they saying? Anger welled up from the depths of my heart. The latest cameras really are great. While my brother seemed impressed, I had no room to listen to that conversation. I felt so angry I was nauseous. And then I understood that it really was as I had suspected. They never intended to live together from the start. They were planning to take over our home, control my child, drive me out, and restart life with the ex. After leaving my child with our mother, my brother and I quickly left the house. Watch out. I cannot forgive the things you've done and your petty schemes. Seeing me return unexpectedly, they were shocked. Did you come back to continue cleaning? Yes, exactly, I replied. This time, I've come to dispose of a big piece of trash. My brother is here to help. Don't make a fuss. Of course. Now, if you both would kindly proceed to the trash can. What? Confused, they hesitated, so I decided to explain in detail. It's not me who is being driven out, it's you. Their complexions changed. What are you talking about? I'm opposed to the forced cohabitation plan. I cannot accept being driven out so his ex-girlfriend can move in. What? I appreciate the divorce. However, I absolutely will not let go of my child. Why are you saying this? As the two became panicked, my brother calmly said, "Everything was recorded on camera. We have the footage." A camera? Don't joke around. How did you? I placed it today while cleaning. As I answered calmly, they exclaimed, "What?" That's an invasion of privacy. Doing something like that without permission, isn't that a crime? The two of them were furious. I remained composed and explained, "I installed the camera for your mother's sake." What do you mean? For my sake? Yes, I thought it would be helpful for you to be able to watch over your precious pets while you were away. During a test, I accidentally overheard your conversation. What did you say? My husband's face turned pale. Hey, I really want to hear this. While I was risking my life giving birth to your child, what were you doing? He stammered, seemingly at a loss for words. Mother, do you maybe know anything about this? After all, you liked his ex-girlfriend, didn't you? Was this your doing? It's not my fault. I just came over to make dinner for my son who had returned from a business trip, and there she was. And it was you who suggested that the three of us live together in this house, wasn't it? I was only hiding your affair to make things easier for you. The two of them desperately continued making excuses. Why did you bring the ex-girlfriend home? Was the business trip a lie? It wasn't a lie. I just happened to run into her while on the trip, and we went out for drinks after a long time, and one thing led to another. One thing led to another, he flustered. I glared at my husband, my disgust evident. It wasn't intentional, but she started saying how pitiful I was, being neglected by you. Huh. I was incredulous at his words. Neglected. Who has been neglecting whom? In fact, isn't that true? You always used pregnancy as an excuse to avoid going out or eating together. My feelings have been continuously ignored. What are you talking about? You agreed that it was okay. I never agreed. I've been enduring it. Why don't you treat me with importance? I'm always kind, but you never appreciate it. My husband's behavior turned defiant and childish. It was unbelievable that an adult would say such things. Was this his true self? I felt utterly disappointed. Comparing himself to our unborn child and voicing grievances was completely beyond my comprehension. Then, my ex said, "Whenever you're tired of being a dad, I'm here to comfort you." And while I was away at my parents' house, she had been comforting him. What did she mean by being a dad? Nothing had even started yet. I picked up my smartphone and called the woman who should be part of this conversation. I had already spoken with her. My brother had found her through social media and explained the situation, and she promptly gave us her contact information. "Hello, I apologize for calling again. It seems my husband is still misunderstanding the facts, so could you please reiterate what you confirmed earlier?" I set the smartphone to maximum volume and switched it to speaker mode, directing it towards my husband. The ex-girlfriend responded, slightly irritated. I didn't do anything. He invited me over saying he had something to give me, and all I did was listen to his complaints about his wife. Then his mother showed up, and the two of them got carried away with their conversation, and it was just a nuisance for me. I left as soon as I could. Honestly, I'm not fond of his mother, and I myself am married with children now, so I don't want any more involvement. My husband and mother-in-law were dumbstruck. Eh? She dislikes me. Ah? I might not remember because I was drunk. I didn't know she was married. Is one of you lying? My cold question was met with a wry smile from Neil. It's her. She just ran away because things got awkward, right? So really, I'm the victim here. You'll forgive me, right? Of course I'll forgive you too. There was nothing I wanted forgiveness for. Neil continued to avoid eye contact. He was clearly lying. My disgust grew. I shook off his hand as he tried to forcefully grab mine. Don't touch me with those filthy hands. I think it's natural for you to be angry right now. But someday you'll be able to forgive me. I was deceived by my loneliness, duped by my ex-girlfriend, and persuaded by Mom, and I hurt you. We can start over from scratch. Start over from scratch? Huh? Are you still drunk? What? I finally understood your true nature. I'm so glad I realized this before letting you hold our child. What? I can't hold my child? Of course not. The same goes for your mother. It's wrong that I can't hold my grandchild. Listen, I want to start over. I think I can change if I see the child's face. I can't believe those words, having seen him say, "We don't need kids." On the pet camera, there was no way his plea would move me. "You're the ones who wanted a divorce, right? I can't raise a child with someone so immature they don't even know what should be prioritized. You're going to take a father away from his child. Don't suddenly act like a father. A father like you is better off not being around. Start over from zero with your mother and get all the praise you want." I said this calmly. Neil's shoulders sagged in disappointment. Just then, the mother-in-law seemed to have an idea and said something. "Huh, you've been so arrogant, but I'll sue you for secretly recording. And I'll also sue for the crime of taking away my grandchild and for disrespecting the elderly." How can she make up such bold stories? My brother, puzzled but calm, responded, "That lawsuit would certainly fail. It would be better for you not to pursue it. What do you know? It's a loss not to fight back. I can win if I sue." The mother-in-law was smug, but she was unaware of my brother's profession. Quietly, he took out his business card. "What? You work at a law firm?" "Yes, speaking as an attorney, I must tell you that it's a case we cannot take. Pursuing this lawsuit would be a waste of effort and money." Facing their astonished looks, I pressed on. "Indeed, not fighting back would be a loss. We will also file a suit and request a fair division of property from the two of you." "What?" Just then, the cats woke up from their nap and started meowing. "Before my allergies act up, it's time to leave." "Wait a minute. You're kidding, right? Can't be." Leaving the clamoring pair behind, I returned to my parents' home, where my beloved child waited. Later, the divorce was finalized. What I sought was a lump sum payment for property division and child support. My husband protested the divorce, claiming, "It's unfortunate for both the child and myself." Who is truly unfortunate here? It's me, betrayed by my husband, and our child who had no choice but to have such a father. It was clear this man was not suitable to be a father. The criticism from the mother-in-law was even worse. Doesn't the future of an elderly woman and 4 pets matter? It's pitiful that a grandchild has to be raised by such a terrible mother. I dismissed her criticism outright. "Please don't drag the pets into this." I was relieved that my mother-in-law, who had plans to make my child take care of her, was gone. I wanted my child to live freely. They said they at least wanted to continue living in the house we had just built. It was a jointly owned house, but since my personal space had been violated, I no longer wanted to live there. Eventually, considering the lump sum payment for child support, I decided to sell the house. The house became someone else's, and I received the sale proceeds in one lump sum. A refreshing feeling of starting anew. Since this was what my ex-husband wanted, he must be satisfied. In fact, my brother skillfully manipulated the two of them, quickly steering the situation towards a resolution. I was always being supported. "I'm sorry for involving you in this situation." I apologized, and my brother said, "It's natural for me to protect my sister, and when a good person shows up next, make sure to introduce him to me first." My still concerned brother said, "For now, I plan to focus on raising my child. I don't have the luxury of time to scrutinize men." Yet, despite thinking this, I ended up exchanging contact information with a classmate from middle school when I ran into him at the hospital during an allergy test. He was a nurse, extremely busy, and our relationship continued with occasional emails amidst our busy lives. Incidentally, the test confirmed that I indeed had a cat allergy. I really like cats, so it was disappointing. A few years after saying, "Let's have dinner when things settle down," we finally started dating, and after several more years, we got married. Over a long period, My brother and I took the time to determine whether he was suitable to be a father to my child. Now we will build happiness together. I am Sydney Brown, 38 years old. I mainly handle design and interior decoration in the construction business run by my father. Despite being the second daughter, I was skilled at DIY and arithmetic from a young age, and from elementary school, my father had special expectations of me, saying, "Sydney, you have a unique sensibility different from other children. I want you to take over my business when you grow up." Because of this, I often visited my father's workplace after school and on weekends, and sometimes we would visit unique buildings in New York together. This not only strengthened my bond with my father but also deepened my interest in architecture. However, at that time, my siblings often saw me as monopolizing my father's time, leading to conflicts among us. But as time passed, they began to understand my dreams and passions, and now they fully support me. In university, I majored in business management to take over my father's company, but exposure to spatial design classes sparked a passion for interior design as well. This new interest led me to secretly redesign the living room and my siblings' rooms. By the time I graduated from university, while I was attracted to a career as a professional interior designer, I chose to join the family business, not wanting to betray my father's expectations. It seemed my father had seen the passion I had for interior design, as after I joined the business, he decided to establish an interior advisory division for me to enjoy. "Sydney, why not try handling both architecture and interior design to make full use of your talents?" he suggested. I was truly grateful for this proposal and felt pure joy. However, there were voices within the company opposed to the establishment of this new department, and I was hesitant to make my relationship with my father public within the company. Thus, I asked my father to keep our relationship a secret. As a result, only a handful of people in the company knew that we were related. My father introduced a comprehensive plan that incorporated interior design into existing architectural projects as a new business strategy. This innovative approach significantly boosted our company's performance. I myself have been able to take on both the architectural and interior design that I am so passionate about, feeling a great sense of fulfillment and joy in my work every day since joining the company. All these achievements were undoubtedly due to my father Gerald's vision and efforts. In my personal life, I have been married to Daniel for 3 years. He also worked in sales at the same company and, with his natural sociability, played a key role as the mood maker at work. I often watched his gigs during lunch at the company's cafeteria. His humorous actions always brightened those around him, and they invariably brought a genuine smile to my face. One day, he loudly declared in the cafeteria, "Hey, attention everyone! Today is the cafeteria lady's 120th birthday. Let's sing her a birthday song," as a joke. I couldn't help but laugh and said, "Really 120 years old?" He quickly responded, "Oh, you laughed? Good, I got the beauty's smile," and drew laughter from everyone. Such exchanges brought us closer, and eventually, our relationship deepened. Daniel always made me happy with his fun jokes. Our marriage plans were progressing smoothly, and I genuinely felt happy about our future together. However, it was difficult to find the right moment to tell Daniel that my father runs the company. I worry that saying, "My dad runs our company," might come across as arrogant, so I kept missing the chance to confess. But I believed he would understand when the time came for formal greetings at home. Although it might be a bit surprising, I have kept this a secret for a long time, considering the risk of appearing arrogant. On the special day when we were formally greeting each other at home, Daniel couldn't hide his nervousness, which was more apparent than usual. On the way home, to gauge his feelings, I quietly asked him, "Were you surprised?" "Sorry for keeping quiet. I've always worried it might sound condescending if I said it myself." He responded with a slight surprise. "What? Oh, the house? I had no idea your family home was so impressive. Is your dad like the president or something?" "Yes, that's right," I affirmed. He continued, nodding. "I thought so. Otherwise, you couldn't have such a magnificent house." I was a bit surprised and said, "Oh? Daniel, you still haven't realized?" "My dad is." He tilted his head, puzzled, and said, "Huh, what's up?" "Something on my father-in-law's face. I was too nervous to see clearly. Ha ha," and laughed it off. I sighed. "So, what? Is there a problem with your father-in-law?" he asked, to which I replied, "No, it's nothing serious. Since our marriage happened relatively quickly, there might be criticisms for not having shared all the truths. However, the fact that I was involved in a romance within the company, and that my father was the owner made this a very delicate matter for me. Right after our marriage, we were involved in a major project, and the busyness left no time to discuss my father's situation in detail. During that period, we often stayed late at the office due to work, resulting in frequent late-night meals at family restaurants. Having married within the company, we understood each other's demanding schedules well, and Daniel was particularly proactive in sharing household chores. Then, Daniel's father suddenly passed away, leaving his mother alone, which greatly concerned us. Daniel proposed that she live with us so she wouldn't be lonely. I wasn't opposed to living together, but I was concerned it would be too much for her given our late homecomings and limited days off. However, Daniel reassured me, saying, "Don't worry. Yes, we are busy, but on the other hand, my mother will help out too. And I want to be there to support her whenever needed." Knowing Daniel's strong feelings for his mother, I couldn't refuse his proposal, so we decided to live together. At that time, I didn't anticipate that this cohabitation would bring significant changes to our relationship in the future. Despite being in her 60s, his mother held very traditional views, believing that men should work outside and women should take care of the home. It's a wife's duty to support her husband and look after the family. This belief often led her to criticize my career, and I frequently faced her sarcasm and cold comments. Once, when I came home late and Daniel was doing the laundry, his mother harshly said to him, "Why are you doing that? That's the wife's job. The problem is her working outside. No matter how late it gets, she should handle it." Despite Daniel's objection that her views were outdated, his mother snatched the laundry from him and declared, "This is my house. No matter what she wants my son to do, I won't let her have her way so easily. I don't know what she's thinking, but I won't let her do as she pleases." Daniel then asked me, "Mom said that, so can you take care of it from now on, Sydney?" I replied, "What? You know I'm busy too. I was hoping you could help when you have time." He responded, "I understand. But since we're living together now, it's important that you and Mom don't get into conflict, right? I think she'll get used to our lifestyle after a while, so please bear with it until then." Reluctantly, I agreed to Daniel's proposal. The next day, when I went to do the laundry, I found his mother's clothes were also included. She frequently criticized further, saying, "Daniel can't even eat a meal made by his wife, and when there's no packed lunch, he eats dinner outside." What's the point of being married if you can't take care of your husband? She also said, it's because you're working that you can't have children. You should quit your job soon and have children. Maybe then you can become a bit more womanly. Furthermore, she repeatedly urged me to quit my job to take care of her son, but I countered. My father expects a lot from me. He plans to make me the head of the company eventually. Unaware that my father was the owner, she attacked. You and your father are foolish. Initially supportive, Daniel gradually began to echo his mother's criticisms under her influence. A wife should prepare her husband's breakfast and clothes in the morning. That's a wife's duty. Living together made it clear that Daniel was heavily influenced by his mother. Her commands were absolute. Daniel also had a habit of exaggerating stories. When he received the Employee of the Month award, he boasted to his mother, "I'm the best in the company." Although he was the top that month, his usual performance was average. He spoke as though he was an unparalleled talent within the company. His mother took his words at face value, praising him. "You are indeed remarkable. You are very important to the company." Daniel was pleased with her words, fulfilling his need for validation through excessive praise. Daniel expected his mother's praise and indulged in it. I was exasperated with such interactions. Around that time, a rumor was spreading at my father's company. "Hey, have you heard? The president is retiring." "Really? When is that happening?" "The details are unclear, but since there's a rumor, it might be in the near future." "Hey, has the new president been decided yet?" "Yeah, someone named Brown seems likely, but there's no one by that name among the current directors. I checked the company data, and it seems there's a young Brown in sales." "Really? Brown from the sales department?" "That guy who is always joking, and his performance is just average, right?" "So, are they bringing in the new president from outside?" "I'm not sure, but maybe that Brown guy is related to the president." "If that's true, I can't deal with this. I might quit." "Really?" "The president is retiring and Brown from sales is going to be the next president." Brown from sales as president. This rumor quickly spread and became a topic of conversation between Daniel and me. "Sydney, have you heard? The president is resigning, and it seems I'm going to be the next president." "Ah, yes, I've heard such rumors." "Really? Me as president? But I don't have any connections to the president, and I'm too young for that role. At first, I thought it was a misunderstanding." "Right. But when I looked at the company list, I'm the only Brown." "What about me?" "Don't be silly. A woman in that position? That's impossible." "Oh, is that so? Could this matter really be about me? After all, I got the Employee of the Month recently, so the president must have noticed me." "Really?" "I'll go report this to Mom." "Wait, it might be too early, Daniel." Daniel left, happily heading towards his mother's room. A few minutes later, I could hear his mother's joyful voice from the room next door. Then, right after the sound of footsteps running down the hallway, the door to our room, where we were preparing for bed, burst open. "Why are you sleeping? Wake up." "What? What's happening?" "Hurry up and get ready." "Ready for what?" "My son is becoming president. We need to celebrate." "But it's 11 o'clock at night." "Don't say that. Your husband will be president. You need to prepare something." "Mom, we don't need to celebrate tonight. I'm going to sleep." "Really?" "I wanted to celebrate. Maybe next time." "Thanks, Mom." After that day, his mother's harassment became even worse. She started engaging in more malicious acts, as if trying to hinder me from going to work. One morning in particular, when I tried to wear my newly bought heels, I found them soaked in water. His mother appeared and said, "I was watering the flowers just now and accidentally spilled the watering can." "Oh, your new shoes are ruined." It was unusual for her to water the plants. Her attitude made it clear she was displeased with me shopping freely. Additionally, I once caught her rummaging through my work bag. When I happened to be there and yelled, "What are you doing?" "Please stop," she left silently, looking embarrassed. There are countless other instances I could mention. His mother was openly hostile towards me, repeatedly being malicious. Daniel started behaving as if he were a ruler, issuing commands to me. Daniel's exaggerations were a habit from before, but now they were no longer amusing, they were just painful. Life at home became unbearable, and I often thought about divorce. Yet, I couldn't bring myself to make that decision, perhaps because I deeply believed that the old Daniel might return. Contrary to my hopes, Daniel continued to be capricious and displayed arrogant behavior within the company. One day, as I was eating lunch in the cafeteria as usual, Daniel appeared there too. I was seated far away, so he didn't notice me. At that moment, a female employee approached him and asked, "Mr. Brown, is that rumor true?" "Ah, you caught me." "Can't help it, yes, I'm going to be the next president." Daniel answered proudly, flipping his hair like a character in a drama. The woman was trying to attract his attention with a sweet voice. "Really? Congratulations! Your wife must be thrilled." I felt more than jealousy, I felt a strong revulsion towards my foolish husband and left the cafeteria. Daniel was being authoritarian not just with colleagues and juniors, but also with superiors, and many openly said they would quit if he became president. Furthermore, it was revealed that Daniel had made inappropriate comments in my absence. "A woman who can't have kids is worthless." "Oh, that's my wife." "But no worries, there's Dora." "A woman who can't even look after herself should be cut off quickly. And when I become president, I intend to marry Dora." With such behavior, Daniel had turned many in the company against him. Apparently, someone had reported this to the upper management. The executives were shocked and quickly informed my father, the president. I was summoned by my father, who scolded me, "You must leave that man immediately." Not only is it problematic that he is a candidate for president, but I cannot forgive him for making such statements about my daughter. "Sydney, we haven't talked much lately because I've been busy, but is he like this at home too?" my father asked. I couldn't hold back anymore, and before I knew it, I was crying. I was afraid to tell my father everything, worried that it might make things worse. But I needed someone to know the suffering I had endured, so I confided in him about the bullying from Daniel and his mother. My father was furious and said, "Why didn't you tell me sooner? We should have brought you back home immediately." This cohabitation was a mistake. Moreover, it came to light that he was having an affair, which truly shocked me. I had never imagined he would do such a thing. Having believed that if Daniel returned to his former self, we could restore a good relationship, the shock was immense. However, I am not the type to stay silent and overlook things. My shock turned into anger, and I decided to demand proper accountability from Daniel and his mother. Therefore, I asked my father to come pick me up after I had resolved the situation. First, I hired someone to investigate Daniel's alleged infidelity. A week later, I had photographic evidence. As expected, The woman involved was the same one who had approached him in the cafeteria. I planned to confront Daniel with this fact the following weekend and had already informed my father. On that day, I gathered Daniel and his mother in the living room where they were relaxing and placed an envelope containing the investigation results on the table. At my father's urging, I had pre-activated the recording on my smartphone. Why should we have to adjust our schedules for you? This is unbelievable. That's right. What's going on? Look at this. With that, I pulled out the photos from the envelope images of Daniel and the female employee leaving a hotel. Oh, isn't that Dora? His mother's unexpected comment left me bewildered. Wait, you know her. She's just an acquaintance. But she's Daniel's lover, isn't she? Right, Daniel. Ah, it really is Dora. What? Yes. We recently went out to eat together, the three of us. Dora is indeed a charming woman. Hee hee. You knew Daniel was cheating? You calmly say, ah, Dora, knowing that Daniel is having an affair. Are the two of you not saying something absurd to me? That's your interpretation. And what about this affair? Don't say it's something bad. Since Daniel doesn't love you anymore, it's natural for him to be interested in other women. Daniel cheating is justified just because he doesn't love me anymore. What about my feelings? Your feelings? They are irrelevant to us. Fundamentally, the problem is that you haven't been treating Daniel properly. I have not mistreated him all this time. It's just been your selfishness. I am not your servant, nor do I deserve to be disregarded. Oh, how boldly you talk back. Dora said that once Daniel becomes the company president, she plans to be a full-time housewife to take care of him. A capable woman, unlike you. I just glared silently at my mother-in-law. Ooh, how scary. Daniel, you've been quiet for a while. Is there anything you want to say? Anything to say? My mother has already said everything. What? Actually, after discussing with my mother, I was planning to leave you once I became the president. It's out now, so it can't be helped. While saying this, Daniel pulled a brochure from a drawer and handed it to me. What is this? It's for a high-rise apartment where I, Dora, and my mother will live. The contract is already completed. It cost over $1 million. We're going to be celebrities. Ha ha ha. So you need to leave. I felt pathetic for not seeing through him earlier. To think I loved this man, I feel like I've wasted my valuable time. Understood. I will start preparing to leave. However, I must tell you one last thing. I will never forgive any of you. I will sue for emotional abuse, infidelity, and defamation. Well, you're free to try. As long as Daniel holds power, it will be easy to squash any problems. Go ahead, state your claims. Is that so? Then make sure you have no regrets. After that, I contacted my father to come and pick me up. He was waiting and replied, I'll be there soon. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang and my mother-in-law opened the door. I'm Sydney's father. I've come to pick her up. Oh, the foolish father of the foolish daughter. I may be a foolish father, but I do have the authority to fire your son. What? While tilting her head, the mother-in-law muttered, really, like parent, like child. And then, while tossing my bag into the hallway, she said, your father's here to pick you up. Could you hurry up and leave? My father witnessed this and was trembling with anger. From the entrance, he shouted loudly, Sydney, bring Daniel here. Hearing this, Daniel told his mother, I'll go say goodbye, and followed me towards the entrance. However, upon seeing my father, Daniel was so surprised that he lost his voice and exclaimed, "Mr. President." The mother-in-law, noticing her son's reaction, hurried to the entrance and asked in a flustered tone, "What's going on?" "I apologize for being late, but I am the president of the architectural firm where your son works." "Wait, the current president of the company where my son is supposed to be the next president. Are you the one promoting my son?" "Thank you." "Huh? But you're Sydney's father." "Huh? Could it be?" The next President Brown was Sydney. Despite the revelations, my father's anger had not subsided, and he continued to address the two of them. "First, you, the elder. I've heard you've been treating Sydney terribly." "What? No, surely not." "Right, Sydney? Don't you think I've been a good mother-in-law?" "No. From the beginning you've been a terrible, harassing mother-in-law. And you, let me be clear as Sydney's father, do you not feel any shame as a man for looking down on women, bossing them around, and even engaging in an affair?" That is... "I've also heard plenty about your behavior at work." "Who said you could be president with your mediocre performance?" "Really? Daniel? You said you were unbeatable at work, right?" Let's set that aside for now, Mother. And I've heard you've been saying at work that Sydney is incapable of having children." That's not. There are multiple witnesses." "I'm sorry." "This is a clear case of sexual harassment, even if she weren't my daughter. Furthermore, I hear that dissatisfaction with your conduct at work is growing, and people are quitting. Our company will never tolerate sexual or power harassment. You are being terminated immediately for compliance violations. There will be no severance pay." Daniel, unable to find words, chased after my departing father, continuing to apologize relentlessly. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law collapsed on the spot, overwhelmed by shock and seemingly lost in a daze. As this ridiculous drama came to an end, I felt a sense of relief. I left them with a bit of sarcasm. "Don't forget about the alimony." "Oh, right, everything would be resolved easily once Daniel became the president, wouldn't it?" And walked away. I subsequently demanded alimony from both Daniel and his mother. I was initially uncertain about collecting alimony from my mother-in-law, but the recorded conversation from that decisive day proved her excessive harassment, allowing me to proceed with the claim successfully. I felt particularly vindicated in punishing her, as my anger was stronger towards her than Daniel. Dora probably learned of the situation from Daniel and chose to resign from the company herself. Rumor has it that Dora, who had approached Daniel for his status, eventually broke up with him as well. Well, that's hardly surprising now. Daniel must have realized that she was after his status. As for the current situation of Daniel and his mother, so far, I haven't received a single dollar of the alimony from them. They likely are experiencing financial difficulties. According to my lawyer, my mother-in-law had completely believed in the story of Daniel becoming president and took out loans to purchase several expensive pieces of jewelry. The monthly payments are high, and now she's unemployed. After being fired, Daniel also seems to be struggling to cover his living expenses. The cancellation fees for the apartment he had contracted are in the tens of thousands of dollars, and with the alimony added, I hear his debt exceeds $100,000. However, their financial issues are no longer my concern. I'm not particularly concerned about the money, but I want both of them to take proper responsibility. If there is no payment, I am considering taking legal action. Personally, I have finally been freed from their malice and can now live my days in peace. My father feels the same, but I have caused a lot of trouble for my colleagues at work. Since I also share some of the blame, I consulted my father about a way to apologize without drawing attention, and he suggested, how about making the company cafeteria free until you are satisfied? I agreed with this idea. I immediately contacted the cafeteria management company and requested them to provide free meals. This special event was a big hit at the workplace. Although the budget was spent in just 1 week, this experience was a significant learning opportunity, for better or worse. While I am not quite there yet, as the next president, my resolve to be a role model has strengthened.